So hi everyone, thank you for joining us today for our preview day, specifically also focusing on our health profession. So real quick, my name is Yesenia. I'm the Assistant Director of Admission here at Gonzaga. I primarily work with students from the California Bay Area, Central Washington, and Texas as well. So if you are joining us from those places, thank you so much. And for everybody else, of course, it's exciting to have you here. I'm glad to hear that you guys are also looking into the health professions. We have a great team that's set up here for you with 2 of our professional staff, as well as a student who's currently in one of those tracks themselves. So we'll take a moment to kind of talk about that and let them kind of share their experiences and advice also for you as you start looking into Gonzaga and your future careers. So with that being said, thank you again, and I will pass that on to Catherine and do introductions there.
Hi, welcome everyone to our presentation today. Hope you're all doing well. My name is Catherine Brackman. I work at Gonzaga as a staff member. I work in career and professional development, and I am our assistant director for graduate and professional school engagement. It's a super long title, but it basically means that I focus specifically on supporting students who are thinking about going on to graduate school. And a lot of that work involves supporting students who are pre-health at Gonzaga. So our pre-med students, pre-physical therapy, kind of whatever is incorporated into our pre-health community. A fun fact, I'm also a GU alum. So I graduated about 10 years ago and have been working here. I'm starting my 4th year, so welcome, and I will pass it off to Dr. McCullough to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Ryan McCullough, so I'm an associate professor in human physiology. I've been here 8 years or so, I guess. Really enjoy it. I teach a lot of stuff in the biomechanics area of human physiology. I enjoy math and physics, so I teach statistics and biomechanics. It involves physics of the human body, all that sort of stuff. So if you like that area, then you and I will get along pretty well.
And Riley, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, my name is Riley. I am currently a sophomore here at GU. I am a biology major with a chemistry minor, and I am also on the pre-med track here.
Awesome, thanks Riley. And we do have some slides for you today just to kind of provide a little bit of framework for our conversation, but please, as you have questions, just add them to the chat. Yesenia is going to be keeping an eye on those, and she will interrupt us as questions come through. We want this to be really helpful for you and to be able to answer questions. So we have a PowerPoint presentation, but we're pretty informal. So don't be shy and ask questions, but we will hopefully provide you some information about how we can support you if you decide to come to Gonzaga, which we hope you do. And if you are thinking about being pre-health and studying pre-health while you're here. So to start, kind of why might you want to study or pursue health professions at Gonzaga? So there's a lot of text on this slide, and I'll try and go through it quickly, but you've heard about our liberal arts education and why is that important in the context of being pre-health? Health professions programs, whether you're thinking about medical school, dental school, physical therapy, they are really interested in having students from a wide variety of majors. On the next slide, we're going to talk about kind of choosing a major, which is one of the big questions that we get. But having a perspective in a wide variety of coursework, English, sociology, philosophy, developing those critical thinking skills that you would do at Gonzaga is giving you a really unique perspective that is going to help in health profession school and really help you to be a health professional down the road. So that's kind of a unique perspective that you would gain at Gonzaga. Jesuit values. So if you look at a lot of health professions graduate programs mission statements and Gonzaga's mission statement, there is actually a lot of alignment when you think about serving others, being leaders, being men and women for others, serving those who are underserved and underserved communities. There's a lot of similarity. And so kind of coming to a Jesuit institution and developing a lot of those values is going to, again, help prepare you for future work as a healthcare professional. Service is another big thing that you might hear a lot about. You might have heard a lot about today or in conversations with admission reps. Our students are highly, highly engaged in service. And if you are thinking about going into a healthcare profession, that is a service field. And so being able to engage in service as an undergraduate student at Gonzaga, you are learning compassion, empathy. You're learning how to engage with people who are different than you. And those, experiences that you're gaining are something that are going to help you develop into better people, and is something that medical schools, physical therapy schools, again, all of those health professions are going to be really interested in when it comes time for you to apply. Small class size is something that's also really valuable. You are going to get to know your faculty members. I will say, whether you like it or not, they're going to get to know you. And you are going to have a lot of academic opportunities, research opportunities, which is going to, again, help you build those skills, help you explore a lot of different opportunities, help you explore different areas of science, different areas of social science. And because you're helping to build those strong relationships, when it comes time for you to request letters of reference, you're going to have such strong relationships that it's going to be fairly easy for you to ask for those letters, and fairly easy for your faculty members to write strong letters of support for you. And then another thing that people may not know, especially if you're from out of area, is Spokane is a huge healthcare hub. From the time that you drive on I-90 from Seattle to Minneapolis, Spokane is the biggest healthcare area. We have 6 major hospitals in the city. We have, it says thousands of doctors. We have 2 medical schools here. There's a slide later that talks about all of the different graduate healthcare programs in the area. We have, a dental school, a PA program. So just the access to, opportunities for research and shadowing opportunities is pretty great here. So just Spokane in general is a great place for opportunity if you're interested in healthcare. I'm going to pass it off to Dr. McCullough to answer a big question that we often get is what should I major in if I'm pre-health?
Yeah, a lot of schools out there have a specific pre-health or pre-med school major. And that was my experience back when I did undergrad back in the old days. But we don't do that at Gonzaga, and that kind of aligns with Gonzaga's philosophy of how we're educating the whole student. We have the university core that's part of our major, or part of our university system, that every student majors in a whole range of courses to educate the entire student. So to that end, you can really pick any path. You can major in anything and still meet the requirements for pursuing medical school or other health professions. Now, we offer all kinds of guidance and advising to help you make sure you meet those requirements. But on the other end, our observation with working with lots of different medical schools around the country is they are getting much more accepting of majors coming from a wide range of backgrounds. They're not looking for a box to be checked in just one particular major. In fact, some medical schools are indicating that they kind of prefer students coming from a wide range of backgrounds. So to that end, you can pick whatever major you want to pursue a career in health professions. But you still have to meet the requirements, the admission requirements that your particular health profession requires, whether it's PT school, whether it's med school, whether it's OT. So we offer a lot of guidance and a lot of help and a lot of support, both within your major, Catherine herself, Kevin Meeser. There's a number of folks around campus and clubs and groups that I think we'll talk about here in a little bit, that offer some guidance and help support you in pursuing that. But you can really major in anything. And as we show on that slide, there's a lot of students who pursue majors in things kind of outside the traditional sciences that go on to medical school or other health professions. And then there are students who pursue some of the more common paths like biology and human physiology and chemistry, but also double major or minor and other areas that interest them. And we have a bullet there on the slide indicating that really what's most important is that you pick something that you're passionate about, that you care about. You're going to do the best and you're going to be the most successful if you pick a path that is something that interests you. And if you do well, that's going to reflect well in terms of your grades and your success and the reference letters you get and everything else. And the medical schools and PT schools and other graduate schools are going to see that. They're going to see that you picked something that you care about, that you're passionate, and you can dedicate yourself to something. So as you approach this, don't focus so much on checking a box that you think the medical school has. Focus on what are the prereqs, but beyond that, I'm going to pursue something that interests me. And then at the end there, we talk about GPA. So the realities are, whether you like it or not, GPA still does matter, right? Your ability to be successful and to excel in classes matters. That shows your capacity for learning, your work ethic, your dedication to your studies. So regardless of what major you choose, you need to do well in that major. And then you also need to do well in the science core, the biology, the chemistries, the anatomy and physiologies, the math classes. So regardless of what path you take, you need to do well in the whole major itself, and you need to do well in the science core that is specifically called out in most of these health applications. But if you're picking something that you're passionate about, and this is the career and the path you want to go on, then you should do well, right? That should follow from your interest and your dedication. And again, feel free to interrupt at any time or type something in chat if you have questions as we go through this. And in class, I teach a lot of classes, and I encourage students to interrupt me at any time if they have something they want to explore more. All right, so maybe go to the next slide. So we have listed up there some of the typical requirements. I'm not going to go through all of those. So if you're going to med school or PT school, there's common requirements that most schools tend to follow or to expect. And that's a list of some of the common ones. So regardless of what major you pick, and we just talked about on the previous slide, that you can be in biology, you can be in English, you can be in psychology, you can be in human physiology. It really doesn't matter as in terms of your application. But you still have to meet the prerequisites. And so these are some of the common prerequisites that typically the schools will require. There may be, depending on the school you want to apply to, there may be some additional requirements. So we're going to work with you, both advisors in your major and some of the other groups on campus. We're going to be working with you to help you start to identify what path you want to pursue, exactly where you want to end up after you leave GU. And then start to identify some schools that you think you might want to apply to. And from that, you're going to start to form a list of what prerequisites those particular schools desire. And so what you need to be targeting to fit in your 4 years here to make sure you are ready and position yourselves to have a successful application. And then one of the things we mentioned on there is, specifically if you're planning to go to med school, there's a great resource listed there that I think it's about $30 or so for a year or two subscription that gives you a lot of this guidance and a lot of the background. So if med school is something that you dream of doing, then it's well worth spending the little bit of money to help keep yourself on track and moving forward towards that. All right, maybe we'll go to the next one. All right, so this one's near and dear to my heart because I teach in human physiology. So I've been in human physiology for 8 years. So we have students who go to a whole range of career paths. The most common place our students go are to be an MD, so medical doctor, a physical therapist, PT, occupational therapist or OT, and PA, physician's assistant. And then there's a whole range beyond that. Those tend to be the most common coming out of our major. But what do we do in our major? Well, rather than study a whole lot of different things, we focused on just humans. That's what we study. We're interested in everything about the health and the functioning of the human body. So we have students take all the foundational science classes in their freshman year, and then we move them through a progression of learning more and more rigor about how the human body works. So in the sophomore year, that's when students take anatomy and physiology and associated labs, and those are rigorous but really rewarding, interesting classes. And then we move through a whole range of other classes. So a big part of our major is that we are research focused. So you come out of our degree being a official scientist. So we teach you statistics, we teach you experimental method, we teach you doing literature review and background. All of our students complete a research project before they graduate, which is one, beneficial for you as a student, just to grow and to learn. And most of our students who graduate say the research project was their favorite part of our major. But then it's also just has the side benefit of it's great for applications. So when you go to apply, schools really like to see that you were engaged and actively pursuing some kind of research experience. So we have that built in as part of our major. Yeah, so in particular, I teach more on the biomechanics side. So that's where we integrate physics. And I don't know how many of you had physics at some point, hopefully quite a few of you. But we integrate physics with the human body, and we look at joint structure and function, orthopedics, and what kind of torts the joints are exposed to, and what the various loading of the joint tissues are. And we have a whole range of elective classes on cardiovascular physiology, cellular molecular physiology, all related to and tied to the human body. So I think that's, I could plug human physiology the rest of the day, but maybe we ought to move on.
Awesome. Well, so one of the, thank you for that, Dr. McCullough. So human physiology is a great example of, you know, a major that you can choose. And, you know, he talked about, you know, he's clearly passionate about human physiology. So really it's about finding something that, choosing a major and choosing activities that you are really passionate about and are going to help you prepare for a future career as a health professional. And another question that we get in addition to, you know, what do I need to prepare for medical school, you know, or physical therapy school, you know, kind of what are the things? Give me a checklist of things. And that's a kind of tricky question to ask. There certainly are a list of things. There certainly is, you know, a list of prerequisites that you need to complete. There's, you know, you're going to need to take some sort of standardized exam. You might have thought you were done with those. If you're thinking about graduate school in the health professions, I hate to break it to you, that you're going to have to take another exam. But what we have on the screen, what we call our PreHealth core competencies. And what we really encourage students at Gonzaga who are pursuing some sort of, you know, PreHealth study is to think a little bit more big picture. And rather than checking the box and trying to get, you know, a certain number of service hours and a certain number of shadowing hours, is to think about what are the activities and really pursuing things intentionally that are going to help them discern their career path and help prepare themselves to develop things like critical thinking skills, cultivation of collaborative networks. We are hearing from the graduate health professional schools that it is more so these intangible skills, these core competencies that they're wanting incoming students to develop, more so than checking off the boxes. And the beauty of this more kind of ambiguous approach is that it creates a lot more flexibility for students to pursue things that they're interested in, that allows them to develop these skills. Sometimes the challenge is they don't know exactly what that looks like. But some examples here. So application and integration of science, healthcare, and behavior. This looks like research, for example, but it doesn't mean that you have to do research. So if research is something that you're really interested in and you want to explore, you're somebody who likes to solve problems and you really like working in a lab or you really like working with human subjects, then absolutely pursue research. That's going to help you, become a better scientist or a better physician. But if it is something that you're not interested in, it might not preclude you from getting into medical school, if that makes sense. we really encourage students to find activities that allow them to develop these skills. Inclusive and ethical service to others. Again, going into a field, healthcare, where you're going to be serving others. So getting involved in some sort of community service activity, whether that is through the many opportunities that we have on campus to engage in service. We have, we're really engaged in the community around us. We have a lot of mentoring programs, for example, where students come from the local communities, come to campus, and our students are mentoring them and in after school activities, or helping with tutoring, or going off campus, or going to the local hospital and meeting with patients, or welcoming patients when they come into the hospital. So what we've done is created these 6 competencies based on what we're hearing from health profession schools that they want their students to come in with, and then based on our mission statement as Gonzaga, what type of students we are wanting to graduate. So what does that look like in action? A little bit more tangibly. So leadership. So we have on the next slide kind of some examples of more organizations and more specific examples, but our students are really engaged in leadership, really engaged in service. Clinical experience is another thing that you will really want to really get involved in during your time as an undergraduate student. Shadowing is a big one. So shadowing is where you are actually seeing a physician or a doctor in action. You're kind of following them around, or a physical therapist or a dentist. This is really important because believe it or not, medical schools and dental schools, they don't actually want to flunk you out. Once you get there, they want you to be successful and they want to graduate you. They also don't want you to get halfway through and realize that this is not actually what you wanted. So they want you to kind of spend the time before you get there to see the good, bad, and the ugly. They want you to take the time to make sure that this is the path that you want to go down. So trying to get clinical experience. Again, that's shadowing, kind of following people around. That's volunteering in hospitals and clinics with different organizations to kind of, again, get that experience up front so that you understand the role that you're getting into. And again, I mentioned this before, standardized exams are, for the most part, required by most schools, whether that's the MCAT, which is for medical school, the DAT is for dental school, and the GRE, which is the graduate record examination, that is for a lot of other programs like PT school, occupational therapy school. There are a few other examples, but these are the big ones. So just other things to think about in addition to your major, kind of what you're going to need to get into your eventual grad programs. Again, these are just some examples of, I would say, the opportunities, but also the support that exists at Gonzaga to help you as a pre-health student. We have something called the Committee on Health Science Careers. So this is a group that they support what is called our committee letters, which are letters that are written on behalf of the university for students that are applying primarily to medical and dental school. But it's kind of a comprehensive letter of support that's written, kind of co-written by numerous faculty members at the university. And they also provide kind of guidance and support for students. We have things like the Writing Center that can help with personal statements. We have academic and advising and assistance, and faculty advisors. So every student at Gonzaga has a faculty advisor that is helping them with not only their course planning, but oftentimes are kind of helping them with career advising, and often are serving as, you know, a mentor for that student. We also have an academic advising office as well that is kind of supplementing the advising that goes on. We have our career and professional development office, that's my office, and we help with, you know, the perhaps obvious resume writing, but also finding internships. We can kind of help with finding research opportunities. Faculty members are, doing their own research and can be great connections for research, but we can help supplement that searching. My role, again, specifically is helping with that graduate school application process. So I help with interviewing and also with personal statements and kind of the nitty gritty of the applications. Our Center for Community Engagement is an amazing resource in terms of connecting with service opportunities. They have their own programs that they run and then also can connect with organizations in the community. Our comprehensive leadership program is a really great opportunity for developing those leadership skills. I believe you apply as a first-year student and then kind of go through and end up graduating with a leadership minor. And then we have, I only listed 4, but we have hundreds of clubs on campus. Everything from, these that are really involved in the health world to, rugby club to, dance club. I mean, you name it, we probably have it. So lots of opportunities to get involved and build community on campus. We also like to talk about the University of Washington School of Medicine Gonzaga Regional Health Partnership, which is something that's pretty unique to Gonzaga. Like to talk about it in terms of the opportunities and also take this time to talk about, I think, what it is not and kind of clear up a little bit of misconception that I think happens. One big question that we get is, if I apply to Gonzaga, does that mean if I want to, that I automatically get into the University of Washington School of Medicine? No, it is not an automatic. It is a partnership. It was really created to kind of expand medical education in this part of the state for the University of Washington. So they have a campus here. It is a medical school that is on Gonzaga's campus, essentially. So they have they still have a campus in Seattle, but they have 120 first and second year medical students in Spokane that are completing their education here. They also have PA students here. So that's the MEDEX program. And you may have recently heard that they just broke ground on a new building that is going to be complete in, Dr. McCullough would know this better because our new, our human physiology program will be housed in there. Is it fall or is it 21?
Fall 2022.
22, okay.
At least the latest deadline or timeline I've heard.
Okay. So very exciting. So, I mean, our Gonzaga is definitely going to benefit from that in terms of amazing new space for our human physiology programs. But there are a lot of opportunities. This slide and the next slide talks about just the collaborations that happen with mentorship opportunities. So we have medical students that are, getting Starbucks at the same Starbucks that our Gonzaga students are. We typically host panels with the med students. So our, pre-med students can ask current med students questions. They have, the UW group has an underrepresented in medicine club or organization that does some mentoring. There's a health equity circle group that does some collaborations. They do neuroscience outreach. We also have faculty members that teach at both the medical school and at Gonzaga. So one of our, Dr. Kevin Meeser, who Dr. McCullough mentioned earlier, who does a lot of our pre-health advising, he teaches predominantly at the medical school in the fall. And it's just a great opportunity for, again, just more collaborations. To see, he's interacting and seeing medical students. And so for him to then have a one-on-one meeting with a pre-med student and say, I see med students every day, and here's what I can tell you about, the amount of time they're studying. Here's what I can tell you about what the classes look like. And it just is really a unique experience that we have at GU. Here are some other things. I probably have listed a few other clinical research experience. I haven't listed that one yet. Different seminars and lecture opportunities that Next Generation Medicine is a really cool lecture series. I believe there was just one of those on Wednesday evening. So just great opportunities as a result of the partnership. And I think that will just continue to grow. We're getting toward the end, and I definitely want to save time for questions. I talked about this earlier, but this is a list. I hope I've included everybody on this list of the number of health professions programs that are in the Spokane area between Eastern Washington University, Washington State. Gonzaga also has some, mainly through our graduate nursing programs, which we also have a lot of students that are interested in going into. We also have clinical mental health counseling, but just a lot of healthcare opportunities in the area. And again, this means opportunities for our students to ask questions, connect with current students, and then also oftentimes there are research opportunities involved here. And then finally, so this is our kind of what we call our PreHealth kind of advising, or our PreHealth program is our Health Professions Pathways program. And this is how to get more information. If you go to gonzaga.edu/H3P is how it's abbreviated, you can get a lot more information about kind of how we support students, you know, through kind of early on, how to start gaining experience through the application process, kind of how to, you know, go through a timeline for applying, support through personal statements, and then how to connect one-on-one for support. So it's a very, I would say, collaborative process and support network that we have at Gonzaga, and involves a lot of faculty members, staff members, a lot of offices on campus. So it is, I will say that the H3P is kind of the centralized name and the centralized network, but it involves a lot of people, a couple of which are on with you today. But it's a great network. If you have questions that you don't get a chance to ask today, please feel free to shoot us an email as well. If you have questions, go ahead and add them to the chat. But I'm so grateful that you joined us today.
Fantastic. So with that being said, thank you so much to our staff members who are, of course, here. As a reminder, everyone who's joining us today, we do have our own student, which is Riley. She's also taking her Saturday off to help us and help all of you really answer some of your questions that you might have in regards to like that student process and how it's going for her too, and what her future plans are. But I'll go ahead and be the one moderating the chat. So if any of you all have questions, please feel free to ask those questions in the chat directly to me. If you just don't want to maybe voice it to the whole group, you can privately message me and I can just ask that to the group as well. So we'll start with Garrett's question. Garrett, thank you so much for joining us also. What percentage of Gonzaga students who apply to medical school get accepted?
So this is, I'm going to give kind of a long answer to this question because it's kind of there's not a super easy answer to this question. There are numbers, and I think it depends on how you ask the question, I think. So I can give you the numbers. So, and it depends on if you're asking, I think, on an annual basis, like on a given year, how are they accepted? So nationally, the percentage is nationally for acceptance is about 40% get into MD school. And I think when medical school, you have MD, which is also called allopathic medicine. And then you also have osteopathic medicine or DO schools. And they're both considered medicine. They get the same opportunities for residency. So I think remembering that, but so nationally, Gonzaga students get on a year to year, we're competing at the same, it's about 40%, maybe even slightly higher. For DO schools, it's about 60% on a given year. That's without any number crunching. And I think that's where it starts to get a little bit complicated, because I think you can crunch the numbers as much as you want. Because that includes, you could start to look at what if you could look at the number of students that eventually get in. You could start to say, you know, what percentage of students at some point get in, that would be a different number. What percentage of students with like competitive statistics, which we consider, let's say like a 3.6 GPA and maybe a 5.10 MCAT, that number goes up to like 70%. You could also look at, yeah, so you can look at the numbers however you want. I think schools also can crunch the numbers differently. I will also say that our students tend to do really well because, numbers aside, because of the things that I talked about, we really have a leg up when it comes to service hours, leadership opportunities. Our students really stand out in those areas. And I will also say that we support all of our students through the application. So I think there are some programs or schools that might say, you know, you really shouldn't apply. There's no way that you're going to get in. That's not up to us to decide. That's really up to the medical school. So if there's a student, we might say, here are some ways in which you can strengthen your application. You might want to see if you can get some more, you know, service hours or get some more clinical hours. That will help you be a stronger applicant. But I'm not going to say like, I don't think you're going to get in, so I'm not going to support you. And no faculty member is going to say that either. We're going to support all of our students through the application process. So I think that's something to also keep in mind too, is that we're going to support all of our students throughout the process and not try to, you know, manipulate our numbers and say, you know, all of our students that go through a specific program that we have a 98% acceptance rate because we're only counting a certain number of students. Does that kind of answer your question? Super long-winded answer, but it's kind of complicated. But I would say our students are very competitive and at or better than the average.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Riley, I want to ask this one for you, just to share what your personal experience has been as a student, and then if Catherine or Brian want to address like it on how it's been for their classes, feel free to kind of chime into that. But let us know, so when you were in your classes, Riley, what does the average class size look for you once you get involved in your major? I believe you're muted for the second.
Sorry. Yeah, so I would say the biggest class size I've had was probably my Bio 101 class, and that was at most 50 students. So far as I've gotten more into my major, I've been around like 25, 30-ish students, which is really beneficial. I would say if you are looking at medical schools, it's such an advantage to be able to know your teachers because you're going to have multiple opportunities to ask for research, to ask for recommendation letters. And, you know, as a STEM major, being able to go to a teacher's office hours and be one of like 3 or 4 people there is such a big difference between, you know, being in a lecture hall of 500 kids and your teacher has, you know, 30 people in their office hours and you maybe get to ask one question, you know, so you get a lot of individual attention and you get to build relationships with your teacher. And for medical schools or any kind of health sciences, like that's really, really beneficial.
Yeah, I'll add to that. That's the reason I wanted to come teach at GU is because of the small class sizes. So some of our classes in the sophomore year, which is the first classes that students begin to take in our major, are get close to about 40 students. But the rest of our classes, they start decreasing rapidly in size. By the time you're in your senior year, we have class sizes of 15 to 20. And so when students are seniors in our program in human physiology, at least, I know all of the seniors, usually know them by name, and it's really nice that when I'm walking across campus, students waving at me and I'm waving to them, and I know them by the first name, right? And I'm an advisor for a group of students, and I follow them the whole 4 years. So by the time they graduate, I'm really invested in their success, right? And it's really satisfying and rewarding. And to Riley's point, I feel comfortable writing them a reference letter because I've worked with them for 4 years, and I know everything. I know a lot about them. Probably not everything, but I know a lot about them, especially on the academic side and their research side and their job and work experience and all that sort of thing. So.
Fantastic. So we are going to be running out of time here soon. So we'll, if you all can keep it really short, and then that way we can address those questions. I believe we have 3 more that we have time for. The next question is, what does undergraduate research look like for a pre-med student, and are research labs competitive?
I'll let one of you two field it.
I'll speak real quick for our major. So for our major, research is built into our major. So all of our students do a research class. It's a full year of research. So all of our students, whether you want to or not, you're guaranteed a research experience where you are leading a project yourself. You're designing the project, carrying out the research, and then ultimately submitting it to conference. So we view research as so important that we make it a part of the major itself directly.
And I'll add to that. So for bio and chemistry majors, you have 2 options. You can do just regular biochemistry, and you can also do like bio or chemistry research concentration. So I'm a biology major with a research concentration. So it's built into my class schedule that I'll have like some time for research with a professor, or I can also do it over the summer. And so there's a lot of programs that will help you kind of build that research into your schedule. And another thing I will add is that all research at Gonzaga is undergraduate research. So you're not going to be, your opportunities are not going to be taken away by upper like graduate students or anything like that, which is definitely a plus for getting those opportunities, because it's very difficult at bigger schools to get undergraduate research opportunities.
Thank you. Super awesome. Thank you guys for that. Next question, are there opportunities for students on the pre-physical therapy path to work with Gonzaga athletics and on-campus physical therapists, if that's a thing?
So there are some opportunities there, and there are some off-campus physical therapy places, groups that our athletes go to and work with. And so there are definitely opportunities to both shadow, observe, intern with those groups, or even get jobs in those physical therapy clinics. But I'll echo one of Catherine's earlier points, is that Spokane really, for the size of our city, we have a tremendous density of medical care and medical facilities. So you really want to not focus on just one particular area. Most of our students volunteer and intern in multiple different areas, so they have a broad range of experience, so that when they go to apply, they can make a really good case that this is the particular area I want to work in. And I know that because I've volunteered and shadowed in all these different areas. And so there's a lot of opportunities. So there are opportunities for students to work with some of the campus athletes, but there's a whole wealth of other opportunities to pursue.
All right, thank you for that. Last question that we have time for is, does Gonzaga have specific graduate schools selected for pre-physical therapy tracks, or are any schools accepted?
That's probably best for me as well. So I don't know, Catherine, did you want to jump in?
You go ahead. I wasn't sure if I totally understood if it was like, are there certain schools that our students tend to go on to? But go ahead.
Yeah, so our students go across the board. There are physical therapy schools across the country, and our students go to all of them. I've written reference letters for students' applications for probably every physical therapy school out there over the course of 8 years. So our major sets you up pretty well. If physical therapy is your preferred path, then our human physiology degree sets you up pretty well for that application. So you're going to be pretty well served regardless of where you go. That said, again, to one of Catherine's earlier points, is you're going to want to start looking at the prereqs, because every PT school out there they all have similar prereqs, but just a slight bit of difference. So if you know that this Creighton is the school I want to go to, then start looking at their prereqs when you first start at Gonzaga, and start targeting that for your application. But that said, you always want to have a couple backups. So start looking at some backup prereqs for some of your other school choices. But our students have been successful at going to a whole range of PT schools. So no, you're not kind of locked into one PT school, if that's kind of what the question was asking.
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, if I looked at it, a lot of our students tend to be from the West Coast. So probably a lot of if they want, probably a lot of the schools are on the West Coast, but I think that just probably preference. I think a lot of our students probably want to stay over here preference wise, but they are all over. We have students that end up on the East Coast. It's not I think it ends up being personal preference where students want to go, not where they can get in. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for answering that question for us. Well, everyone, in order to respect everyone's time, we want to for sure thank you, first of all, for joining us for today, as well as our staff that joined us. Riley, again, thank you so much for joining us today. If you all happen to have specific questions, be sure to get in contact with our staff within the health sciences. You can always look us up online and find our contact information. Get in contact with your admission counselor if there are any specific questions you still kind of are having. And with that being said, thank you again. We're going to end this session. The next session that's going to be available is going to be the student panel starting at 12:20. Bye, everyone. All right. Fantastic, you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Riley. Enjoy your Saturday. Hey, Teresa.